A very warm welcome. Thanks for being with us. Tonight, we focus on an issue many of you have told us is an issue where you live: waste and recycling. Why have household recycling rates here in the capital remained roughly the same at a time when we are now more environmentally aware? The borough with the best record is Bromley, but the worst is Tower Hamlets, which also has the lowest rate in the country. Residents there have been sharing their experiences of trying to do the right thing with our reporter, Anna O'Neill.
This goes outside to the recycling bin outside.
It looks simple enough, but even an environmentally conscious resident like Hera finds recycling challenging.
Me and my husband have rows about it all the time, about what goes in recycling, what doesn't go in recycling.
But the recycling in her new build home is not the only issue. Hera isn't convinced that her local council takes recycling as seriously as she does.
I am a diligent recycler, I really try. There you go. And it's a big chute underground. See where this metal bit is? It requires a big lorry and a crane to lift this whole thing up. We've noticed that actually they seem to bung it all in the same van. We've spoken to one of the operators and they said to us it's being sorted out at the depot, which is very different messaging from what we're getting on like the leaflet on the top, which says, you know, we must separate it out.
A short journey away in her block, Jackie also has a problem with waste management.
That's the block that doesn't have a bin. That's the big block, and they're 3-bedroom flats. It is a nightmare. It is horrendous. We dread bank holidays because that's when things start to pile up.
What about food waste?
As far as I know, there is nothing for food waste. There is no designated bins. I'm not aware of any designated area, and if it's food, it's got to be sealed off.
So where do you put your food at the moment?
In the normal domestic chute.
According to the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Tower Hamlets has the lowest local authority recycling rate in the country. This is the household waste chute for this block here. Can't even open it. Presumably it's completely jammed with rubbish inside. Meant to go down a chute into the bottom, be collected at the bottom here. And so everybody is just piling up their rubbish on the outside, and it just adds to the look of the place where rubbish doesn't feel like it's being managed properly. Tower Hamlets told us.
The borough is one of the most densely populated in England, with 88% of homes as flats, meaning most residents rely on communal recycling facilities rather than individual bins. High-rise living and rapid housing growth make recycling structurally challenging.
There's a plastic here, and I incorporate it, so I pick it up and then I try to upcycle.
In another tower block, environmental artist Silvietta believes London could be looking to Milan, where she was born, for tips on how to recycle well.
This is cardboard.
In her hometown, all residents of a tower block are fined if one resident gets it wrong.
Italian, they're not famous for following rules. They're more creative. But you know, if you're fined regularly, you embrace the thing, you know. And unfortunately, it requires a little bit of a fear for, you know, respecting the rules. But ultimately, they're good for everyone.
In this area of London, the local authority will need to do more to make residents feel their recycling efforts are not just a waste of time. Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
So what can be done to make recycling easier, and why is it such an issue? London's mayor wants to double recycling in the capital by 2030, but previous targets have been missed. Our environment correspondent Tom Edwards reports now from a recycling centre in Southwark.
This runs 24 hours a day, 5 days a week.
It is hot, noisy, and it smells like your bin. This is where your recycling ends up. Not everything is welcome.
This is a great example of what people shouldn't be putting in their recycling bin. People often think that metal, all types of metal, can be recycled, and in most cases you're right, but not in your curbside recycling bin.
Recycling bosses say there's no silver bullet to increasing recycling rates. Everyone has to do their bit. Here robots and workers sort the recycling.
what we want to see is people just putting the correct items into their recycling bin. The key thing that we want people to leave out of their recycling bins are things like electrical items and anything with a battery, because they cause real disruption at our facilities and are real hazards to human health. So last year we saw that across all of our facilities and in our vehicles as well, we were averaging around 1 fire a day that we were seeing because people were putting batteries into their recycling bins.
London produces 7 million tonnes of waste a year, but its recycling rate is 33%, and it's been stuck on that for years. The Mayor is in charge of the strategy, but recycling schemes are run by the councils, and different councils have different schemes.
Every council has a different way of telling you what can and can't be recycled, and how to recycle different things. And I think the rules are so complicated in London and so various, and with people moving from one private rental to another, they're moving between boroughs. And so I think people just get a bit kind of, they zone out.
While previous targets have been missed, new legislation will start to standardise recycling. Councils will have to offer a food waste recycling service soon.
Waste in London is complicated for a number of different reasons. Of course, the responsibility of that falls within the councils, and one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that there's a better standard across London and across the different council. And the government's introducing new legislation that will be effective from April from this year, the simpler recycling scheme, how residents can actually manage their waste. And we're hoping that that will have a positive impact as part of the increase of recycling across our city.
London wants to double recycling rates by 2030. Education, easier recycling systems, political priorities will all play a part. But it will be a big challenge. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
Well, let's pick up on that big challenge with Councillor Rosina Chowdhury, who's the Vice Chair of London Council's Transport and Environment Committee. She's also the Deputy Leader of Lambeth Council. Good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. As we heard there, London has been stuck on a household recycling rate of 33% for more than a decade, but other cities like Bristol and Manchester do better. Why?
So London has unique challenges, and it's to do with our density of housing and the type of housing as well. Half of Londoners live in flats above shops on estates, and they have communal bins, and it's harder to separate, and especially if you live in a small home as well, to have separate bins, it makes it difficult. And with communal bins, it's easier for contamination. And so that's the challenge for Londoners.
And other cities do have, tower blocks, etc., communal recycling. Is it also other things, like councils just have more immediate priorities? They are stretched.
Absolutely. I mean, since 2010, we've been dealing with austerity, Lib Dem and Conservative austerity, where councils have had to make some choices and difficult decisions. But it's also meant that councils have been doing more with less, and innovating and different ways to deliver services in a much more efficient way.
Some people might say, what is the point of that if you've got one hand tied behind your back? Because the other issue that was clearly raised there is recycling schemes and policies aren't the same across all boroughs. It's confusing. How do we make it simpler and uniform across London? Because, you're from London councils, that's the body that represents all London boroughs. Why can't we do that?
Yeah, so this is the thing, boroughs have their own ways of recycling, and that's been the case up until now, because we've got simpler recycling coming in that hopefully will mean there's a more uniform process across London.
You say hopefully, sorry to interrupt, but whose responsibility is it to say, actually, there needs to be one? Who can actually make that happen? Is that London councils across the board? Is that the mayor?
Well, London councils working with the government, working with the mayor, making sure that simpler recycling is implemented so that residents know what to do. So there's legislation, but also there's education and behaviour change as well, because people need to know that what they're doing is correct. And also, people want to do the right thing.
Yeah, and we heard that there, didn't we, in Tower Hamlets, because they don't want to feel that their efforts are wasted. We know that obviously, you know, Bromley does very well, but Tower Hamlets is the worst in the country. And we heard from the waste company in Tom Edwards' report saying, you know, 2 things would help immediately, which is, you know, food waste being separate, but also not putting things like batteries into it. And when you hear that, how realistic is the target that the Mayor has set of 65% by 2030? That's only 4 years away.
Yes, I mean, it is a challenging target, but more councils will be rolling out food waste collection. And we've certainly in Lambeth, we found that when we rolled out food waste collection, it improved our recycling rates. We moved to fortnightly black bin waste collection. Again, that encouraged more recycling rates as well. So there are ways that people can recycle, but it's about making it easier for people to do that.
So do you think that target is realistic?
We'll see.
OK. Rosina Chowdhury, thank you very much for your time this evening. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we will return to recycling later, including what can be made out of it. You might be surprised and also meet a food waste warrior. Plus, everyone's talking about the weather.
Today feels more like April than February. Sunglasses on, break times outside. We're sitting on the grass in central London. But is it that unusual? Is it just a winter wobble or is it becoming a trend? I'll have the details and a full forecast at the end of the programme.
Now, turning to other news, this was the result of flooding from a burst water main in Islington. Emergency crews in inflatable boats rescuing 50 people and 3 dogs. Water began gushing into some homes and businesses along Caledonian Road yesterday afternoon. Thames Water has apologised and says it's working to repair the damaged pipe. Bryony Williams has more.
Oh, we have to get out of our office.
This dramatic footage shows people being rescued by London Fire Brigade crafts after a burst pipe turned Caledonian Road in Islington into a river yesterday afternoon, flooding residential properties and businesses.
Hey, it's absolutely crazy.
For some companies, today's been the first chance they've been able to assess the aftermath.
So it looks like the water has gone now.
Yeah. That is, yeah, because last night it was up to the, you could probably see it, it reached probably the 2nd step. I was shocked by, you know, how fast, you know, it happened. Within a minute, you know, you had water basically rising from your, you know, up to your knees basically. It was scary. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Firefighters spent over 5 hours at the scene diverting water, and the service says they are thankful there were no reports of injuries despite the power of the water flow.
We were alerted to an 8-foot double brick wall that was buckling under the weight of the water flowing down this end, and eventually the entire 8-foot wall collapsed, but that allowed the water to pass into the canal. You can actually be knocked off your feet by relatively small amounts of water when they're fast flowing like that, so ankle deep really does pull at you.
Water has been restored to most properties in the area, but some are still without power. The clean-up operation for many will last days, if not weeks.
We've had to house people. We've rang our vulnerable residents. We've got people going into checking our local businesses that have been really badly affected, not just the water, now they've got no electricity. And we will have a presence here till people need us.
Thames Water says they're sorry to those who've experienced flooding, and there's a team in the area helping those affected. The company will be working overnight to assess how to fix the burst pipe. Bryony Williams, BBC London.
A brief look at some other stories now. The Met says it will reduce the number of horses in its mounted police unit by around half next month as it faces a £260 million funding gap. Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist told the London Assembly's Police and Crime Committee it may have an impact on policing football matches and protests. And the newly installed Archbishop of Canterbury has attended a Ramadan event in North Kensington, taking part in a special interfaith iftar meal. Dame Sarah Mullally, who was the former Bishop of London, attended alongside Muslims and faith leaders of different religions at Al Minar Mosque and met families affected by the Grenfell Tower disaster. to the south-east London now, where a series of music festivals has been given the go-ahead again this summer, despite concerns from some local residents about their size and scale. Campaigners won a legal challenge last year, which now forces event organisers to seek planning permission to hold the festivals at Brockwell Park. Last night, Lambeth Council granted planning permission for this summer's event. Chris Legg can tell us more.
Brockwell Park in the sun today. From May the 9th, for almost 5 weeks, it will look like this again, as more than a quarter of the park hosts Brockwell Live, a series of festivals. Jen Hawkins is among campaigners who oppose the festivals in their present guise.
We're really not anti-events in this park. We welcome them in a form that is sustainable and less damaging than its current form. The scale and size of the festivals has been growing over the past years, and we now feel that it is at a point where it's unsustainable for local people and for nature.
Last year, Jen led campaigners in a successful High Court challenge, which now forces organisers to seek planning permission to stage the festivals. Last night, Lambeth Council granted planning permission for this summer's event.
The council wasn't available to talk to us, but in a statement they claim these festivals generate £10 million for the local economy and say lots of work has been put in to minimise any disruption.
The council says environmental impacts are strictly managed and damage is temporary. Campaigners disagree. These were the scenes in 2024 when heavy rain caused a mud bath. The Friends of Brockwell Park group says the impact of 2025's festivals can still be seen today.
Well, all over the park you can see examples only a few months before the next events are due to start of the damage that were caused by the previous events. And this is where the ground has been compressed by lorries and plant driving over it. Mitigation will only make it a little bit less bad than it might be otherwise, but it's still here and it's still permanent.
Many local businesses do benefit from the increased footfall. Liam runs a bar just yards from the park.
It means a lot to our local business, to be honest with you, because we've been here 13, 14 years, and the summer's a massive time for us. You know, we get thousands and thousands of people come through our doors those couple of months, and it's imperative to our business, to be honest with you.
The show goes on, but campaigners haven't ruled out another legal challenge. Chris Slegg, BBC London.
Back to the issue of waste and recycling and local stories on BBC News. In Luton, find out why this woman gives her recycling to her mum, who lives 20 minutes away. Plus, over in Surrey, the binman, there he is, sharing his 5 top tips on how to recycle right. And in Berkshire, find out what happens to your rubbish behind the scenes at a recycling centre. For more on those and other stories where you live, just head to the BBC News app. And on that note, we are going to head right now to our reporter Thomas McGill, who's in East London, to see how recycled waste can be turned into everyday items. Thomas.
Indeed, Riz, yes, we've been hearing about the challenges that councils and all of us face increasing the amount that we recycle. So could what's happening here in East London be part of the solution? You Are Mad is a company that takes unused plastics like these bottle tops and other single-use plastic products that we all use every single day and turns them into something with a little bit more longevity, like coasters, combs and a lot more. Here's a flavour of what they do. So these items that we're all familiar with would ordinarily end up in landfill, but not here. In here they are turned into something rather special. First of all, they go into this huge shredding machine like this, and from here they are cut into thousands and thousands of tiny bits, and then it's this product here that is turned into something else, another product. And Aaron is on the machine that does the magic. So Aaron, is it okay for me to pop stuff in here?
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Perfect. So what are you up to then? What's happening at this machine?
So we're recycling polypropylene waste, it's generally from like food waste. And then we're going to be squeezing the plastic down from this hopper here into the oven, and then from the oven down into our mould here. That's what we do now.
So these come out as a hot, gloopy mould,
Exactly,
do they?
exactly, after they're melted for a little second. So, yes, that should be ready to go.
Fantastic, lovely. Well, let's bring it over to see what has been created here. Will this be ready immediately?
I might need a couple of seconds to cool down, but this is something I literally made earlier, so you can have a look now, if you'd like to see. Oh, here we are, lovely.
And there you have it, from a margarine tub to millions of tiny little pieces of plastic to a comb that can go on to be used time and time again. Well, let's not just brush over what they do here and speak to James Suckling, the founder of RU Mad. James, so what's the other benefits of doing what you do here at the company?
Well, we could recycle plastic all day long, and still the impact that we have would be very small volumetrically. However, like through the workshops that we do, educating young people and showing them the process of taking single-use plastic and turning it into something that they can keep and that has value, really like gets this process out in the open and allows people to explore sustainability, which is like a really difficult subject to get into.
Certainly has scope to make a difference. James, thank you very much for that. Well, from plastics to the plate, let's now hear from Taz Khan. He's a former chef who was so concerned about the amount of perfectly edible food going in the bin, he set up London Community Kitchen that now distributes locally to families and communities in need.
Literally thousands and thousands of metric tons of food end up at landfill every single week. You've got farmers, wholesalers, distributors, supply chains. Every single one of these institutions has waste, and a lot of the food is absolutely fine and edible. We basically divert perfectly edible food to communities that find themselves facing food insecurity. I'm Taz Khan, the founder of London's Community Kitchen, a social enterprise I started to address food waste across London.
Can this go next to the tomato, please?
We take food deliveries on a daily basis, literally tons and tons of food a day, and we divert it to our community cafes, Barnet, Brent, Harrow, Haringey and Enfield. We also send some of that food into our cookery schools where we have programs to get people into the industry and train chefs. But more importantly, the place that we have here is our flagship in Brent Civic Centre, where food is now no longer deemed waste but a commodity to fuel a commercial restaurant.
We made that this morning. That came out of the oven an hour ago.
So my background is hospitality. I'm a trained chef. I've spent my entire life in the sector, and understanding food is very close to me. And seeing food waste is basically somebody standing with a lack of imagination and creativity. 15 years ago, I saw children in my local area going to school without food, and that sparked a conversation in my mind and a thought that no one in our country should go hungry, especially at school.
Hi. How you doing? You all right? Good to see you.
Our operations are embedded in that grassroots community initiative, but we realise change has to happen at a local government level, and also you need private stakeholders. So what we have done over the last 15 years is bring them all together to literally bring positive change to the communities that we operate in, and so far that's been the success story. Food waste is a heinous crime because it takes from the planet, it takes from resource, and it ends up in landfill. Again, it damages our environment and our habitat, and that's something that we shouldn't allow. I'm doing what I can do in my personal capacity through the networks that we operate in, but we need to do a lot more. We need to really have a conversation around food waste and how we can prevent it, full stop.
And all local authorities will have to weekly collect our food waste from the end of next month. And there is concern that some may not meet that target. For what's happening in your area, go to our website, bbc.co.uk/news, for that and all the coverage from today. Back to you in the studio, Riz.
Thanks very much, Thomas. We'll have more on what you can and can't recycle tomorrow. Right, let's get a check on the weather now, which has made many people smile today. Kate has joined us, and you are smiling.
I am smiling. It was a very, sunny day, which is lovely considering the rest of February has not been sunny. So it's a welcome return of the sunshine. It has been exceptionally warm as well. Now, the good thing about this sunny weather is loads of Weather Watcher pictures. It wasn't just us enjoying the weather. These parakeets in Peckham were also enjoying it. Now, we have had all this sunshine. It's been very warm. This was Kew Gardens earlier on. Barely a cloud in the sky. And in fact, Kew Gardens had the warmest temperature today. It was the warmest day of the year so far, 18.7 Celsius. You can see the spread of temperatures across London. So really very warm, still very much above average. The average, of course, is around 8.3 in the southeast for February, so considerably higher. Now, it was dry and clear to start with this evening. We will see more cloud edging in from the west through the night, maybe a spot of rain, but I think it's going to be largely dry. Minimum temperature not especially cold, around 8 or 9 Celsius. So for tomorrow morning, bright start, but then we're going to see the cloud coming in from the west. Should remain dry through the course of Thursday, but the wind is going to strengthen. It's a southwesterly, a few spots of rain potentially by the end of the day. Temperature, there's more cloud, of course. It's windier. It's not going to be as mild as today, but still 13 Celsius is mild for the time of year. And this mild air still with us overnight on Thursday, but you'll notice there's lots of fronts trying to edge in from the west. You see the yellow? That's the mild air. Fast on its heels is the cooler air. So Friday morning, any rain from overnight Thursday will clear. It will end up being fairly dry, bright, with some sunshine for Friday afternoon. The temperature, though, dipping a little. We're looking at a maximum then of around 14 Celsius. The weekend, still some sunshine, but cooler. Riz.
Kate, thanks very much indeed. And that is where we leave you. From me and the team, thanks very much for watching, and do enjoy your Wednesday evening. After Kate said, a welcome warm day in the capital. Bye-bye.